Hello, thought I would do another video on Wim Hof. Sorry, this is my notes because there's a reason for having those there in a second. My thoughts on the do's and don'ts for the Wim Hof training. Now, take these as hopefully helpful advice. Do, however, do further research. This is based on my own experiences. So the do's and don'ts that I've found to work or not work. But obviously there will be others out there that have other ideas around this subject. First off, possibly somewhat amusing, just after your cold bath / cold shower, don't then stretch. For obvious reasons. This is a particular schoolboy error of mine, of which I had last year a particularly bad back. And I had some stretches that I knew I could do that would ease the pressure on my back. Coming out of a cold shower, of course, muscles are cold. I then immediately went into one of my stretches and put my back out. So that was a major lesson for me, and I love that's how I live my life, through making little errors and then realizing, yes, don't do that again. Now, also, don't be concerned with your breath hold retention times, insofar as don't concern yourself with how long others can do it. And also don't concern yourself with whether you have ups and downs. If you're looking at the breath hold times analytically, don't worry if you have a few days doing really well and then you have a couple of off days where you can't quite hold your breath as long. In my opinion, the process is the important thing. It is the daily practice, just like in yoga. It is the process, the daily regimen, that is the most important thing. And it is just therefore you doing it every day that will, over a long time, provide some form of improvement. But it will also give you all the benefits that the Wim Hof training gives. When you are doing the breathing, make sure that you're either doing it laying down or sitting down, and that's so that you can stretch open the diaphragm as wide as possible. Another don't, and this is something I found myself doing actually for a while, and having seen another video and read up on this, I realized that this really is counterproductive, and that is the breathing. You will find by doing it every day that after a while you'll think, sometimes I just want to get this breathing thing over and done with. In other words, the 3 sets of breathing up to 30 times, sometimes more. You wake up some mornings and you'll think, I haven't got time to do this. I'll just whiz through it. And what that does, or what it did with me, is it made me move my body when I was breathing. In other words, I started to gyrate. Maybe gyrate's the wrong word, but I started to sort of almost convulse my whole body whilst breathing. In other words, trying to get more out of the breathing, more air in quicker. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that the counterproductive element of that is that you're then consuming more energy. So therefore needing potentially more oxygen in order to do the task. So always do this from a calm, relaxed, focused state. Do the breathing and definitely do the breath hold with your eyes closed. There is a meditative quality to this, so make use of it. What I find is when I am holding my breath, I am in a really beautiful state sometimes, where by closing my eyes, I'm just enjoying the moment, and I find that I'm able to hold my breath possibly for longer because, of course, I'm calming my mind. And that's what a lot of this is. You are able to hold your breath longer because it's only your fight-flight response that is telling you to breathe, when in fact sometimes you don't necessarily need to. Be careful with that. I will state that now. When you do feel the urge, breathe. Don't bother extending it much further because you might well then have a blackout of some kind. What else? Do breathe in 100%. And do exhale roughly 70-75%. And possibly the last one, and I think this is what Wim and all other practitioners state, Don't force any of this. I've kind of alluded to this already, but don't force it. Take it easy. Don't be overly analytical about it. Yes, it's nice to see a gentle progression, but make sure that's what it is, a gentle progression. You're not competing with anybody, and you will see the benefits regardless of how much longer you're able to hold your breath. I, for example, because I have very minor respiratory problems, I know I can't hold my breath as long as others, but it doesn't bother me. I know that I'm getting the daily benefits from this. Be careful with this one, because from a physiological perspective, you have to be careful. But one of the things, obviously, that in the Wim Hof training, they suggest you try is the breath hold press-ups. I've had some really interesting effects with that. And yes, you definitely can do more press-ups. And what I try doing actually is mixing up my press-ups. So rather than just doing standard press-ups, I do press-ups by putting my hands at waist level. This is all part of my planche training. As a 45-year-old, I aim to be able to do a planche one day. So this is all part of that. But if you don't know what a planche is, by the way, go and look up body weight exercises. It's a kind of a gymnastic move. That's me, done. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.